I just want to welcome everyone to the Wellness Masterclass entitled, Beatrice, if you'd put up the slide, Redefining Clean Beauty with Stephanie Stahl. And we are really excited to have Stephanie with us today. Thank you so much, Beatrice. More about Stephanie in just a moment. I'm Nancy Davis, Chief Creative Officer and Executive Director of both the Global Wellness Summit and Global Wellness Institute. I'll be your host for this call, and I'm really excited to learn all about what we're going to learn about today from Stephanie. But before introducing Stephanie, I want to introduce Susie Ellis, Chair and CEO of both the Global Wellness Institute and Global Wellness Summit. Susie has seen the beauty industry change over the years, grow into that large bubble on our famous bubble chart. So, Susie?
Thank you, Nancy. Welcome, Stephanie. And I just wanted to say a welcome to everyone. And I wanted to just reiterate that, our mission with the Global Wellness Summit, which is what this is part of, these gatherings, is joining together, shaping the future. And I can't, imagine a more perfect umbrella for what we're going to hear today, because I think we're going to hear from someone that is shaping the future. But I want to thank everyone for being on the call, because I know that means you are part of joining together, shaping the future. So I'm very excited, and thank you, Nancy, for arranging this, because you arrange all the master classes and bring very creative and interesting topics to the forefront.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you so much. And very excited. This is really, I feel like this really is going to be a master class. Like, we're going to learn a lot. I just want to give a quick shout out. There are other members of our team on this call always. Beatrice, whom you've met, who helps run this thing. Michelle Gamble, Wendy Jackson, Paulina Trays, Betsy Israelite, Cassandra Kavanaugh. Lots of our team. It's a small but mighty team, and we have the absolute best. Quick refresher on Zoom, although I think at this point most people don't even need it. But I'll just remind you, Beatrice is going to keep everybody muted. That just eliminates the background noise. You can view this call in speaker view or gallery view, and you can make that choice in the top right of your Zoom window. And please use the chat function, as most of you are already. Tell us where you're from, post a question if you like for Stephanie, and we'll try to get to some of those questions. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Stephanie Stahl, co-founder, Ace of Air. Stephanie has spent the better part of her impressive career in the beauty and retail industries. She was Chief Marketing and Strategy Officer at both Coach and Revlon, and a partner at the Boston Consulting Group. She serves on various boards and is an angel investor and new venture advisor. But really, Stephanie is a passionate maverick in an industry in need of, you might say, a makeover. It is not just that Stephanie is looking at one piece of the puzzle, but rather the whole landscape. We will learn today how Stephanie is revolutionizing beauty and wellness, and that's not too strong a word for what she's doing. We all know, I hope, that beauty is not solely about outward appearance. It's also how you live your life, how you treat people, really how you show up in the world. It's about your skin. It's also, surprisingly, about your gut. Gut reaction has a whole new meaning through Stephanie's lens, and it doesn't stop at the formulas and formulations that might help us be healthy. It's as much about the health of the planet. If the planet is unwell, can any of us really be well? It's a question I think Stephanie can shed some light on. I want to take just a moment to say that we don't promote products on these calls, or really through our organizations at all. We share thought leadership. We introduce our global audience to people who are innovating in the wellness industry. We bring you people we think you should know. We have asked Stephanie to share her company with us today, not because of the products, but because of the philosophy and consciousness that drives the entire enterprise. Because she's not only the first to do something quite remarkable, but because part of what is unique is that Stephanie has created a platform to share her R&D, her challenges, her triumphs, and to inspire others to care as deeply as she does about the world around us. So without further ado, the maverick, the game changer, the smart, strong, and kind, Stephanie Stahl. Stephanie, welcome.
Thank you, Nancy. I'm so excited to be here with all of you. Nancy, thank you for that really lovely introduction. I hope I can meet some small percentage of it. And
Well, this isn't your first rodeo with us. Alexia Brew, I know, is on the call, co-founder of Well and Good, interviewed you for our 2020 summit. So I really should say welcome back rather than just welcome. And before we start talking about your company, let's talk a little bit about you. We love to learn about the people behind the companies. Maybe tell us something we would not know having read your bio for this call.
my father worked on the very first moon rocks. He was literally an earth scientist. He taught mineralogy for decades. And so I was brought up in a home of a crazy Dutch scientist who rode his bike always, not only for his health, but to manage our fossil fuel footprint starting in the early 70s. So my history was growing up, we composted before composting was cool. And my brother and I were put to work wheelbarrowing around what was often a smelly, green, slimy situation, but it made for great vegetables and beautiful flower gardens.
That's incredible. And did you talk about it in those terms then? Did your parents instill that in you then?
We did. I remember very, very engaged conversations, less so me, around the dinner table about OPEC and the 70s oil crisis and our crazy dependence on fossil fuels. And so, yes, that was very much a conversation, and how we were fully committed to be a one-car family, and boy, could we figure out how to be a zero, but that was tricky.
That is truly incredible. And where did you grow up?
Somewhat all over the place. My mom was a Brit. My dad was Dutch. I was born in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I was one of those odd toddlers who grew up in residence in Harvard. My father was senior tutor of one of the houses. And then we started moving to Cambridge, England. I spent many years in Bloomington, Indiana. I'm a Hoosier at the core. And spent a year in high school in Western Australia on the end of the world in Perth.
Okay, I want to say you are absolutely, you are in the right tribe now. This is like, you've got the global background, the sensitizing early on to all of these things. It's just fantastic. Can you talk for a minute about your first assignment at Boston Consulting? Because I think this is going to dovetail nicely into the conversation about your company.
So I had the great fortune of joining the Boston Consulting Group in 1991 as a summer consultant. And my very first assignment, without giving away the client, which of course is confidential, was 1991. And there was a huge battle brewing in the dairy case between plastic and paper. And so the paper manufacturers were wrestling with the fact that plastic was elbowing its way into the dairy case. And my assignment was quite broad, but included understanding end of life for, paper, which was obviously multi-layered plastic and paper, otherwise it can't hold liquids, versus plastic. So I spent about half the summer with the operators of recycling centers in the tri-state area in 1991.
Oh.
And we were trying to understand what gets recycled more, right? Where would be the understanding, and then of course the marketing and advantage from one way or the other. And I remember being really struck by two things. One was, even with good intent, the very little amount of waste that was being recycled in 1991, and very little of plastic and almost none of multi-layered paper, right? It's a very difficult material, kind of a monster material to recycle. And then the more fundamental understanding that the economics aren't there. And for a business to work, and waste is a business and recycling is a business, the economics have to be there, even if at razor thin margins. And that felt fairly bleak at the time in 91.
It wasn't working. In other words, it really wasn't working.
No.
Since this is a masterclass, I'd like to ask you to help us understand a little bit of the language before we get into a little bit more about exactly what you're doing. We hear a lot of different things in this arena. For years, it was sustainable. The word was sustainable, and everybody was talking about that. More recently, we're hearing regenerative. And then now we're hearing from you circular. Could you help us define and differentiate those terms so that we know what we're talking about when we start talking about your company?
Absolutely. And just to share, the last 3 years that I've been working on this venture have been a huge education for me. So I am in no way an expert, and I will mention a few places that are, in case anyone wants to learn more.
Great.
But at the core, 92% of our global economy is a linear economy. And at its most basic, and the way that the Ellen MacArthur Foundation talks about it, which is an amazing resource on this topic, is linear means take, make, waste, repeat. And, you can take better, you can make better, you can waste better, but it is linear, and you are going to continue to use resources to replace, right, what you just wasted. And conversely, the circular economy is built on a commitment to design out waste and pollution from day zero, which, if you think about it, is a fundamentally different design criteria and philosophy than the design of obsolescence, which came into our world, a couple of decades ago, kind of explicitly, although implicitly. The second is to keep products and materials in use. And the third, to your point, Nancy, around regeneration, is to regenerate natural systems. And so a great example of being both circular and regenerative is composting, right? You're keeping materials in the cycle that are used to then regenerate our natural resources.
Mm-hmm.
The future is circular and regenerative and collaborative. And I loved what Susie said about what your mission is around creating our future. We think about it as this amazing opportunity to co-create our futures, and the concept of circular, because at the core, the planet isn't able to provide what we are currently consuming, and it is unable to withstand the amount of waste we're creating. So that's, if you take those things as truth, then you get pretty enthusiastically to a different future. And that's, as I think about the future of clean beauty, which has gone from niche to mainstream in the 10 years since Greg Renfrew and Beauty Counter have so beautifully championed and informed and advocated on this point, that the next iteration, the next revolution is, how do we make beauty truly sustainable, right? Because that word, similar to clean and similar to many other words, has a lot of different variations. And circular actually is a pretty clearly defined concept.
So Stephanie, tell us then, what you're doing about the future, sort of the role you're playing. And I know you just launched your company. I mean, literally just launched it, because why wouldn't you launch a new company in a pandemic? I mean, activist, masochist, I don't know. You'll have to decide. You'll have to
Lucky.
tell us. Maybe a little of everything. But tell us what drove you to do this, because it sounds like you were like born into this way of thinking, and now you have applied it, to this industry. So tell us about that and that journey a little bit.
To be fair, having been in the retail and consumer goods industry for the last 20 years, I have a fair amount to atone for. I've put a lot of plastic components into the world, and I did that without the knowledge that I am now learning and have learned. So about 3 years ago, I was introduced to a really incredible special person named Petra Nemkova, who some of you may recognize that name. She's a supermodel, philanthropist, and now a real catalyst for conscious living. She also came to be known as a survivor of the Phuket tsunami, and has spent the last 15, 18 years building a foundation that has rebuilt hundreds of schools and homes in disaster ravaged communities. And I met her, and she was and we were introduced by our third co-founder, David Knowlton, as someone who was thinking about, well, what could I bring into the world that would be additive? And we joke about how really the world needs another beauty and wellness brand, like a hole in the head, right? And so there are lots of them out there, and many wonderful ones. So we took a really hard look at what did we want to bring that would be additive. And that took us to doing a lot of preliminary research around ingredients and borrowing a lot of pages from the books that are already written and being written around clean formulas. And that is a very vibrant, dynamic, and existing piece of the puzzle. We also, and Petra has lived her life, I am trying to live my life as an integrated inside and outside wellness person. She's been a vegan for 20 years. She did that for family health reasons, and has really incorporated this idea of you are very tied to what you put inside your system, and your skin only looks as good as your gut. And so that was the second piece of it. The third was around, we did a life cycle analysis of the packaging in the beauty and supplement industry. And we did it around direct to consumer, though I don't think the outcome would have been that different if we did at retail. But we wanted to look at direct to consumer. Even pre-pandemic, that channel was growing like gangbusters. And so we did a teardown with a life cycle analysis expert of 10 skincare and supplement products that arrive on your doorstep. Everyone is around life cycle analyses, but they draw off of a globally accepted scientific data bank of weights and measures for materials and everything that goes into what arrives on your doorstep. They take into account recyclability, travel, all of it. And in doing that, what we found was there were some variation for a refillable moisturizer, as an example, or supplements that were in sachets. Those tend to be worse. But in the main, the product, right, the thing we want to either use or consume is about 25% of the environmental impact. The shipping is about 5%. And that was interesting because I'll be in many conversations where there's this visceral kind of sense that, well, the shipping is the problem, right? Because you see the trucks and you can kind of,
and you have the boxes in your garage.
You have the boxes in your garage, and so that's, but it's about 5%. So look, do we need to get to electric fleets and all of the rest? Absolutely, but it's about 5%. So the packaging is about 70%.
Wow.
And if you think about the last beauty product or supplement you purchased, there's the primary, there's the stuffing, there's the cellophane, there's the disc on top that keeps your moisturizer from getting on the lid. There's the secondary, there's the stuffing, and there's the box. And to quote one of my sons when he was very little, right, the packaging is ginormous compared to the size of the product. The products are small.
Yeah.
And so we really wanted to do something that would not only be a mission-based, successful commercial venture, but also something that would catalyze the industry. We really aspire to what Tesla has accomplished in that incredibly ingrained auto industry. And with that, we also wanted to make sure that we were focused on the biggest impact part of the equation. So with that, we brought on an amazing expert advisor, Barrett Roth, who is a longtime environmental activist and educator. And this is a complicated sector, right? There's so much in it, whether it's the vocabulary and the language to what's really happening, to what's promising for the future, but is in the future, to what's greenwashing, to what's just utter BS. And trying to find your way through that, we're so grateful to have someone who's made his whole life around understanding this. He works with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and Cradle to Cradle. So with his help, we began to look at different models, and we looked at the biodegradable, the compostable, the reusable, the recyclable, lots of bull, heavy on adjectives. And we said, okay, but we also know in the US, less and most of supplement and beauty packaging is single-use plastic. There are some exceptions, but the majority, and I think in the beauty industry made something like 120 billion single-use plastic packages last year. So big opportunity, very ingrained base, and the consumer and the local municipalities, however hard we are all trying, don't seem to be winning this how do we waste better conversation, because in the US, 7 to 9% of plastic gets recycled. And that number is actually down because as budgets are cut and we move to single stream recycling, and other countries have understandably said, we don't want the worst of it that you've been shipping us, the number's less than that. And as we talked before, the economics aren't there. So unless we decide to make this a nonprofit industry or the government raises taxes to pay for it all, it's not budging much. So with that, we said, you know what, let's take on what is called extended producer responsibility. We're going to own our packaging, because you know what, I don't need to own the packaging. I'm using it, right? It is a transitory experience. I want the product. And I guess we could have gone really extreme and said, oh, no more skincare, no more supplements, but that didn't, we all want our skincare and our supplements. So we wanted to solve this in a different way. And we went a little bit back to the future. If you think about, and maybe some of us remember this or have heard tell of it, in the 60s, right? All of our soda, all of our beer, all of our milk came in glass bottles, and it wasn't picked up to be recycled. It was returned and picked up to be sanitized, refilled, and reused.
Right. Sterilized and reused, same milk bottles.
Right. We had a whole bottler system set up that did that.
Yep.
And then, of course, 1968, I think that's when The Graduate came out, and plastics, right?
Yep.
That was the future. And plastics, and it's a miracle material until it's learned to not be. But that material found its way into everything.
Right.
So we looked at that and said, you know what, how about we create a more premium experience that does all of the things that, right, and beauty is a fun category for that reason. The packaging matters. And that's one of the reasons why the big companies are struggling with making changes, that and the fact that their P&L is baked, and it's a difficult thing to switch midstream. But let's create an experience. And we took a page from Rent the Runway, where they've proven that consumers are delighted to be in a round trip relationship with a brand via UPS. And I think pre-pandemic, they shared that they have customers in 86% of US zip codes. So this is not just an urban thing. This is an everywhere thing. And UPS already has a round trip network. They're already going round trip.
Explain Rent the Runway just for a minute, just for global people who may not know.
Sure. So Rent the Runway was founded about 8 years ago, and it's a service whereby, and it really started with, oh, okay, I need to go to a wedding. I want to have a special dress. I don't really want to buy that dress because I'm not sure I'm going to wear it again, but boy, I really would like something new and fresh for an event. And they created from scratch a rental system where you can go online and rent something that one of their core values is you can rent something that you might not have been able to afford to buy, but you can afford to rent it. And then you can show up at an event, look smashing, feel smashing, and then send it back the day after so that it can cycle on and on. And they have one of the biggest dry cleaning businesses, I think, in the world to support this. We'll hold dry cleaning aside for a moment, but they have created in some ways a more sustainable fashion option, as opposed to buying the 8 special dresses or the whatever it is and then leaving them in your closet until you figure out how to, make space in your closet for whatever else comes next.
Okay, thank you. So that's that part of that. I love that term, the round trip relationship. So, okay.
So that was, we said, you know what, I think let's work with UPS and understand who they are doing, who they're working with using reused shippers. right? So if you think about the corrugate box, and corrugate is a highly recycled material, highly, right? It's about 45%, because if there's pizza on your corrugate, it can't be recycled, et cetera, et cetera. However, that Amazon Smiley corrugate box, plus the stuffing, we said, okay, could we design a shipper that is super small, doesn't need the stuffing, is kind of a James Bond, your mission is to save the planet. We call it a boomerang box. It goes to you, it comes to us. It has been designed to be used over 100 times and to be fun. And one of the things that makes it fun is we took a page from there's sort of a saying in beauty that pink it and shrink it. And if you pink it and shrink it, it makes it that much more appealing. So one of the things we've done throughout this design process is how small can we make things? Which is different than for any of the marketers in the group. When you're developing a product and you're talking to your retail partners, one of the first questions you'll get is, well, how is that going to stand out on shelf?
Right, shelf space.
And it's a reasonable question. But one of the places that tends to take you is, okay, well, the packaging should be bigger than it needs to be, because that's how you stand out on shelf. So the next time you go and buy your supplements from wherever your favorite supplement retailer is, you'll see that most of them, the package is about a quarter to a third larger than it really needs to be to hold the capsules that are inside, because it would be really small if it were just there to hold the 30 capsules inside. So we worked with UPS. We got special permission. How many people here know how big your UPS label? And it's been the same size since the beginning of UPS. Okay, it's 4 inches by 6 inches.
Yeah, it's big.
It's big, right? It's a big white adhesive label, 4 inches by 6 inches. And as we thought about something that would be durable, we also thought about, okay, it also needs to show up. People, beauty and supplements are special categories. People want it to feel fresh and clean and look great. So the label needs to be on the inside. The label to be on the inside, we said 4 by 6 is too big, because now we have to create a package that is big enough to fit the label. So we got special permission from UPS to redesign their label to be 4 by 4.
Oh,
And that extra 2 inches was kind of a game changer, because it allowed us to make, we have 2 sizes of shippers. The smallest one is this tiny little square that is built around a 4 by 4 label window where you flip and ship. So we know a couple of pain points in direct to consumer is, oh my gosh, don't we all hate returns? Right? You got to figure out the label. You got to find the tape. You've got to, I don't know about you, but when I have a return, it sits there for a while as I sort of gain momentum to deal with it. And so we wanted to make this really clean and easy. So your return label is on top of your products. And we talk about, you just flip it and ship it. So you flip the outbound label to the return label, close it up, it comes back to us prepaid. And when you have empty primaries that you've used up, right? You've used up your moisturizer all the way down to the last drop because you loved it so much and you know that you paid for it and somebody else invested resources in it. So you're going to use it all up. You put those into the next shipment of Boomerang box, comes back to us. We sanitize it. We have, because we're distributing supplements, we have an amazing Skylab with a clean room and low water use. We've been very focused on what kind of sanitization agent we use, because obviously we don't want to be fixing one issue and creating another issue. So we use a sanitization agent that runs off basically as vinegar when it's done. It's obviously a natural substance. And our packaging, our primaries, and our shipper cycle on and on and on. And when they are either too damaged or just, don't have the get up and go anymore or can't be repaired, they get recycled. The shipper can be melted down and made into another shipper. And the primaries are made of stainless steel, which is one of the highest reuse materials on the planet. It's also quite light and highly durable. So for us, it was a great match. And all of the things on our packaging that play the role that plastic or silicone do, right? You have to have a seal. You need something that actually closes things so it doesn't leak out. we use FSC certified fair trade natural rubber.
So you know what, Stephanie, I'm gonna ask Beatrice to share her screen. Let's look at the product. I think it would be helpful in this conversation to have in our head what this looks like, because it's just so interesting and unique. And maybe tell us what we're looking at, if you would.
Sure, thank you, Beatrice. So on the left side, you can see an example of our packaging and our products. So we are a beauty inside and out brand. So we have put together supplements and topicals that work together to give you the desired end skin benefit. For that, we needed, jars to hold moisturizer. So you can see the little jar sitting on top with the whipped moisturizer popping out of it. That is our moisturizer jar. You can see the serum dropper. So it has a glass dropper. The bulb is natural rubber. All of these things can be taken apart by us and sanitized individually. And you can see that we've used the natural rubber label cuffs, both to color note what product it is, as well as you think about labeling things. Sticky labels are a problem. You need something that will endure a cleaning process and look as fresh after it's been cleaned as before. So you're looking at our supplement jars, our serum dropper, and our moisturizer jar in this picture, along with our Aurora capsule supplement. And it looks like our Restore Me Bounce Back moisturizer and Space Age serum.
Thank you so much. And Beatrice, I think there's another slide, if I'm not correct. Is there? Yeah, okay.
Me in the trash.
Is that you looking at trash?
That is me looking at trash. That is me. And I would say for anyone who hasn't done it, and I think it would be a great education for all of our elementary school children, is to take a guided tour of your local recycling center. And this is Sims, which is in Brooklyn, which is one of the larger recycling centers if not the largest, in the tri-state area. And this was 30 years after my original interaction with recycling centers. And there were two really depressing days in this venture. This was one of them. And understanding the process, the effort, and the fact that after things have been, collected, hauled, they come in by barge, sorted, baled. If the market price that day for a given type of plastic resin is lower as a virgin material, then oftentimes that bale goes to landfill because there's no aftermarket for it.
Thank you, Beatrice. Thank you for sharing your screen. Absolutely incredible. You're right. I mean, that would be an incredible education for children to go to a recycling plant. What are your containers made of exactly?
So the primaries are made of, it's food grade ceramic covered stainless steel, and all of the parts that need to be a little bit squidgy, right, to keep things from leaking, are FSC fair trade natural rubber. And this is natural rubber. The shipper, the boomerang box, and mine is being photographed at the moment, so sorry, I don't have it for show and tell, is the life of an entrepreneur in COVID, is made of 100% post-consumer recycled plastic, of which 30% is reclaimed ocean waste. So we partnered with a company that has been doing reclaimed ocean waste, which is its whole nother story. But we really wanted to be part of the current solution, right? They talk about if your kitchen sink is overflowing, not only do you need to turn off the tap, but you also have to mop the floor. And so we wanted to be part of both sides of that, helping turn off the tap and also help mop the floor. So being a secondary purchaser of reclaimed ocean waste and post-consumer recycled plastic felt like a good place to be. And for the shipper, we looked at all kinds of materials, and we've been focused on things that are light and durable and premium and efficient meaning good use of space, high percentage of recycled content, and iconic, so sort of differentiated, that this is fun to be part of something, a community that's doing this together. And the 100% post-consumer recycled plastic kind of was the winner on that.
There are a number of questions that we're going to talk about, the sort of inside out wellness that you talked about. So you've got the skincare and the supplements, and there are questions about whether or not people are using those together. And, I'm sort of interested in kind of the science behind it. Just tell us for a second, the name of your company is Ace of Air. How did you come up with that? And then tell us about that connection to the gut and the inside out.
So Ace of Air is named after a tarot card that means fresh thinking, new beginnings, and problem solving, which felt very spot on. And we also were excited about having a name that didn't kind of pigeonhole beauty or wellness, or right, because all of these sectors are so dynamic. And having been in traditional beauty at Revlon, the problem solution part of beauty is not so interesting and not so powerful, and I think actually can be a little detrimental in a lot of ways. So the idea of beauty and wellness coming together and having a brand name that was inclusive and expansive, we got really excited about. I'm not a tarot card person, but
I was going to ask you, did somebody read your cards and that came up or something?
Back, when I was working in Asia full time, I've had a few people read my cards and my palm, but no, not in this instance.
So tell us about the skin gut connection, the inside out wellness, and how this Emily, who's on our call, asked about this. Are people buying, and are you seeing the behaviors of those things connected?
So people are beginning to buy. We launched 10 days ago. And so very, very
congratulations.
Early days. Thank you. Great question. What we did do was a lot of secondary research, as well as we have a dermatologist on our expert advisor board and a husband and wife natural pharmacology team.
Oh, wow.
Who are kind of, magic, amazing, knowledgeable. You start talking to them about the gut biome and the way that your largest organ, your skin, interacts with all of your gut health. This is where I learned about the interactions. You can see that quite a few brands might have started with skincare and have added supplements, or vice versa. And I know from Alexia that some of the top searches in the media world are around gut health as it relates to beauty. So there is a growing interest and understanding. And I know just for myself, if I've eaten garbage for a week, I don't have enough concealer to fix that. So this interaction of, we have an amazing vegan omega supplement, and those fats are fantastic for health generally, and they're fantastic for skin health. And this has been through understanding both the more Western medical piece of this, which is really important, and we get that through our dermatologist, Dr. Klein, and then the more Eastern and the more natural side of things, right? So one of our, Alina Restrepo is a 3rd generation herbalist. She's one of our natural pharmacologist advisors. So we've really looked to integrate kind of the wisdom of the ages along with the knowledge of the current, and putting those things together. So our 2 kind of everyday supplements, the vegan omega, as well as we have a pre-pro postbiotic, which is very much around helping balance the bacteria in your gut. And I think many of us are familiar with probiotics, which is the actual live strains of bacteria that you introduce. The prebiotic is the kind of the food for it to feast on in your gut. And a postbiotic is more new. And that is, as it's been described to me, what they call a dead bug kicker that increases the efficacy of the probiotic. So those are 2 key things in our in our regimen to provide not only overall wellness, but very specifically augment the health of your skin.
Absolutely incredible. How long did it take you to build the formulations to put this together? Did I hear 2 years that you worked on this? More?
3
3 years. 3
3
years.
years.
Absolutely incredible. And it launched last week.
On January 28th. So almost now 12 days ago.
And you launched it to consumers directly?
Launch it. So we are a direct-to-consumer business, and in part, that's because it's a growing and very robust channel, even without the pandemic. I think McKinsey had a study that said pre-pandemic in the US, 20% of beauty was being purchased direct-to-consumer online. It's higher than that now. They estimate that when we turn the page on this pandemic, it'll probably settle around 35%. So that is a very vibrant channel. And we would love to figure out how to have a reuse cycle at retail, and delighted to get into that strategic discussion with retailers. That has its own set of things to solve for, solvable. But we wanted to take action on what we felt like we could take action on in the immediate term.
Stephanie, on these calls and in our network, tremendous amount of people who own businesses, own spas, own, hotels, run hotel brands. All of those have opportunity to be in this conversation and in this business. In other words, I know that many hotels now are trying not to use single-use plastic in what you get in your room. And there's a consciousness around this, but what you're doing really takes it, to another level, I think. But you could find interested partners on this call for sure. I'm going to, with your permission, share afterwards. We always send an email out to people who have registered for the call. I'd love to send your email address to people, because I know that you're very keen, and I want you to talk about this next, on sharing what you have done to get other people doing this too. Can you talk about how you have created a kind of platform for this? This is also very unique. Most people, close the vest, and it's like, we came up with something very special and unique, and it's doing well, and we're not going to tell you how we do it. But you've taken quite the other approach.
Thank you, Nancy, for bringing that up. Our objective in this, obviously, we love great skincare and supplements. So part of this was, designing for ourselves, and we like it in a fairly simple way. Otherwise, I forget to do it. So that was part of doing this. I think the driving force was, how do we have positive impact at scale? And we know we're on a timeline to do better for our planet. And so having positive impact at scale means collaborating and sharing. And so we also know that the investment in the tech side of this, being able to track packaging as well as finished goods, is different than most businesses. That's an investment we've made. That's an investment we are keen to leverage and share with other brands and businesses, small businesses, wellness, spa. In addition, the materials research and finding great partner suppliers has taken time, right? I wish we could have done this in 6 months, but I will tell you, when I was in Vegas at Cosmoprof in the summer of 2018, and football fields of amazing beauty packaging suppliers.
Right.
The number of looks I got that were basically, this one's a few cards short of a deck, was, grounding. And that we've now found amazing suppliers who are excited about being part of the kind of rental revolution, if you want to think about it that. Let's purchase the things that need to be purchased, and everything else we can share. And so we have a B2B kind of sister initiative that we've labeled Infinitas. And that is the platform that we are already beginning to have conversations with existing brands about how do we help them make the step change in packaging that they really want to make. There's a real desire. Consumers are running ahead. Consumers want it faster than it's coming. Companies want to do the right things. They get a little bit hemmed in by existing P&L, investment in branding and packaging, and then the supply chain and the way we've defined efficiency hasn't changed since the Industrial Revolution, and it's too narrow a scorecard, right? If efficiency is how many bottles can you run down the line, how fast, the single-use plastic bottle is always going to win.
Yep.
So we're delighted to begin to co-create how do we leverage the investments that we've made, and we've been inspired. I don't know if everybody knows the brand Allbirds, but their co-founders are amazing and their product is amazing, and Amazon knocked them off, and they wrote this incredible letter to Amazon saying, you know, we understand this and we're delighted that you think our materials are great, and we'd actually like to partner with you so that you get the full benefits of what it is we've done.
Yeah, it's incredible that you are offering that. I think that is as much a game changer as the, you know, sort of soul of the brand and what you're trying to do. And there are lots of people in the chat, by the way, who are going to do business with you or connect you to people who want to do business, and there are questions about your own packaging and what is recyclable and what of the stainless steel and what of the coating and things like that. One thing, and so, you know, we'll I know you'll try to address some of that. The B Corp status, can you just touch on that for a minute? Marion Sharkey asked about it in the chat, and it was something we were going to get to too. And of course, I'm watching the clock and I could talk to you for hours. But tell us about the B Corp status, because I think that that's a very important thing.
So growing up, Patagonia was a big aspirational brand for me, and I'm a big outdoors person, and Patagonia is one of the original B Corps. And so that's how I began to learn about B Corps. And I think there are now maybe 2,700 B Corps globally. So I view the B Corp certification as an appropriately rigorous and pretty hardcore kind of certification to achieve. It's also an amazing roadmap to create a business around. And it's not just sustainability, it is employees, it is kind of every aspect of how, for me, we wanted our business to show up in the world. So we used it as a roadmap from the beginning and then worked toward, and actually in our first fundraising mini deck, there was the aspiration, we want to be a certified B Corp. And there are not that many in beauty. I know Beauty Counter is one, there are a few others. And to me, it felt like not only the gold standard of kind of putting your feet to the fire, what are the practices? Are we pursuing them? Are we achieving what we want to do? But also I think it has a lot of meaning to the consumer. And that's very powerful. So we were so delighted to be able to get that certification before we launched, which isn't so easy.
Yeah, and thank you to Jennifer Norman, who either looked it up or knew that there were 3,500 B Corps globally. So that's
behind.
Good. But of all the companies, that's not so many. So that, I mean, I know it's a difficult thing to attain, and I think it's really fantastic that you did that before you launched. I want to pivot for a minute to you and your life. You have 3 sons.
Yes.
How do you get them, or do they care about the things you care about? How do you inspire them the way your family inspired you at the dinner table, to care about things in the world?
Yes. And, you know, there's some eye rolling. And you try to model it. I remember and look, this is an ongoing project for me, right? I look around the kitchen and say, oh, okay, all right, let's focus on that. And I am far from model citizen A, but we're working on it. And when the kids came home from college the last time, they looked around the kitchen and they turned to my husband and said, what's mom been up to? And so they do understand it. And actually my youngest son was my intern, helping me do all of the paperwork required to become a B Corp. So this is very much inside the family. And I loved it when my oldest son said, yeah, of course my first car is going to be an electric car. I thought, love that. Okay. Because you never know, at least for me as a mom, exactly what is sinking in.
Yeah.
So I do think it's sinking in, and they're getting a lot of reinforcement on their college campuses, right? I think college campuses in the main as well. I was down helping one of them move out of Emory, and I found an errant sock under the bed, right, as one would when it's left behind. And I went out to the main room, and there were probably 18 different recycling canisters, right, for different materials. Could not find anything for an errant sock, so I just put it in my pocket. But they are definitely being, you know, kind of reinforced and trained as part of their college life, which I love.
Yeah, being sensitized to that. You have 3 sons in college?
I have 3 sons in college, a sophomore, a junior, and a senior.
Good. Oh my gosh. Well, congratulations on that too. You know, Stephanie, a lot has been written and discussed, of course, about the impact of this pandemic on wellness, on the industry, on the focus on wellness. You know, people turning to it for answers, people looking for the science and evidence that we've long trumpeted. Can you just give us your thoughts on this? What do you see? You know, how has it impacted what you're doing? And also, you know, what do you think the lasting impact of that's going to be?
It's a great question, and I'm thought about it a lot. I think, look, there's an immediate focus on what can I do today to feel better, to heighten my immune system, all of the very natural reactions. And so you can see the interest and demand for supplements is off the charts right now. And I think making that a simpler thing to navigate. One of the big pain points around supplements is, oh my goodness, there are so many, and I'm standing in front of this and I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to get. But so that interest is sort of the immediate impact. I would say that the larger impact, and speaking for myself, right, we're all getting stretched in ways that are challenging. And you know, I think wellness and kindness to me are becoming more and more integrated and intertwined. Kindness to self, kindness to others, kindness to the planet, and incorporating that spiritually sort of into one's practice. And, you know, I think we can be pretty tough on ourselves. And I think if anything, this has shown that toughness doesn't always yield the desired results, whatever those might be for someone, right? But wellness and feeling positive and feeling good. So what I hope comes out of this is a couple of things. You know, the way we work has been upended. It works for some people, it doesn't work for other people. It's not right, no solution fits everyone. But I think as we turn the page and go back to whatever routines we are returning to, I really hope as the wellness industry and more broadly that we can differentiate between when we work, what is a need and what is a preference. And there are a lot of preferences that drive a lot of working behaviors. And when this is over, we'll come back to the fore. And I think we've learned a lot about, look, there are a lot of different ways to work really effectively. We've lost one that is also effective, but let's not fall back into preferences that were developed since the Industrial Revolution, which, by the way, was built on war. So I think we can create practices and ways of working that are far more value-based and valuable as we go forward. And I hope for that out of all of this mess.
What are you most optimistic about in the world? And it's interesting when you have you know, almost grown children. I have grown children. You know, you see the world differently. You see through sometimes their eyes and their pain, their challenges and their triumphs. But what gives you the most kind of optimism right now in the world?
You know, I do think our ability as humanity to learn and to solve. And we're actually really good at that when we allow ourselves to be really good at that. And when I was in the depths of despair after a presidential election a little while ago, not the recent one, and sort of talking to one of my sons about it, and he said, well, Mom, now we know what was out there already. Now we can actually begin to work through it. So knowledge is power. And I am excited about what we learn. We know things today that we didn't know before. We would have acted differently before, I think, if we knew things. So I believe in knowledge. I believe in co-creation. I get excited about the tools we have, the way, look, this global meeting. And I don't know if you had a forum like this pre-pandemic, perhaps you did.
Not
But
online. No, this grew out of our desire. We do two very important kind of virtual events several times a month. The master classes, which I run, and sector spotlights on all the sectors of the wellness economy that Susie runs. And it has been a way to keep our network, our tribe, our friends together, sharing, challenges and triumphs, helping each other. It's been, that collaboration has been very important, and it grew out of this.
and do you think you would keep something like this even
Yes.
as you add back?
Yes.
Which is, that's pretty magical. And the global piece of it, the community piece of it, I'm so delighted to have been a guest to the tribe and hope to become part of the tribe. And that I get optimistic about, right? We have a lot of power to do good for ourselves, for our families, and we share so much in common, not only in our communities, but globally, the things that we truly care about. And I think we have power in that.
Yeah. Well, you're one of these incredible people who walks the walk. I want to, absolutely make clear that you are invited to share this story, bring your co-founders with you in Tel Aviv, because there is a place where innovation is at the center core of the soul of the country. And it's certainly going to be, very, very important to the event. I am going to, alas, we are at the end, and I'm going to do what I've been doing on these master classes this year in 2021, which is a kind of lightning round, made famous by James Lipton on Inside the Actors Studio, adapted a little bit for everybody I'm talking to. So you ready, Stephanie? Here we go. What is your favorite wellness word?
Kindness.
What is your least favorite wellness word?
Fitness.
What are you binge watching on Netflix?
Flack.
What's your favorite beauty product that you don't make?
Favorite beauty product that I don't make. I have to come back to that.
Okay. What job would you have if you didn't do what you do now?
I teach nursery school.
Oh, that would be wonderful. What's your superpower?
Problem solving.
And if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
You did all the good you could.
I want to say that you absolutely are doing all the good you could. And we are so grateful for your time and your insights, your honesty, your willingness to collaborate. I'm going to ask everyone, unmute yourselves, and let's give Stephanie some global love.
Thank you.
Stephanie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a delight.
Stephanie, you'll receive the chat, and you'll see all the comments and all the love you're getting and all the business people want to do with you.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.